Hey guys, I am going through the process of reloading some 223s. These that you're looking at right here, all that's been done to these cases right here is I used a Lee universal decapping die, knocked the primers out, and the ones that had military crimps in them, I used my Super Swadger 600 from Dillon and swatched the primer pockets out on these cases here. That tool there does a really good job. So my next step is they got to be sized, and then they'll have to be trimmed. I've got a couple of different methods I use. First of all, I use a Lee zip trim. I've got this universal shell holder on there. You see how that works right there. You can basically put any shell in there, say from I haven't tried any belted magnums on it or anything like that. Don't own any of those. But you basically put it in there, clamp it in, tighten it down, and you use the Lee trimmer right here, and this is the gauge that once you size the case, this goes in, and of course it goes through the primer pocket and up against this. And so this Lee setup right here is really good at making each case consistent. Now, I used a little Lee tool right here. I've pretty much worn this thing out. A little carbide tool right here. This part right here deburrs the inside of the case. What I use, this is what's supposed to deburr the case mouth on the outside edge. What I do, I just take this rough edge right here and put up against the case mouth right there, and when I pull the little rip cord right here, I am pushing that up against it, and it deburrs the case much better and quicker than using the inside of that right there. I have a Lee Crimp Die. This does good. You got to have a power source right here, and I use like I think a Black & Decker 20 volt lithium drill, but I find that this little zip trim right here does it so much better, and so I just go through that process right there. And what I got to do now to these, I'm using this Dillon case lube. So what I'll do, I will back up, and I won't be chintzy on this, guys. I spray this stuff around pretty good, swirl around, and spray a little bit more. And to make sure it's all on there, I basically just now it's got a heavy alcohol smell to it right now, and what I'll let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before I start using my Lee Classic turret press. I really like this setup right here versus the Dillon for rifles. The reason I say that is there's so many different processes you have to do for 223. You know, if you got a crimp primer, boom, you got to swatch that primer pocket, and if the case is not to the correct length, it has to be sized first to be able to trim it to the correct length. So that stops the whole process right here using the case feeder and going through all the steps. Now, I love my Dillon when it comes to loading pistols or anything that doesn't need trimming. There's nothing out there that really will beat it. But for accurate loads, I'm using my Lee because of all the different steps you go through. Basically, decapping them. I even use a tumbler down there to stainless steel pin clean my brass after I have used a universal decapping die. There it is down there. And the brass is really clean when it comes out of that tumbler. And all I'm using in that tumbler is Dawn dishwashing detergent. I used to use Lemon Shine, just a small pinch amount, and I found it really doesn't matter because the stainless steel pins are doing all the cleaning. The Dawn just keeps the carbon from reattaching to the brass. So I started using the Lemon Shine back in my dishwasher again, the way it's what it's supposed to be, what you're supposed to use it for. So I'm going to start my little process right here of resizing, trimming. Then I'm using a Hornady powder trickler, powder funnel. I forget what you call them, guys. I'm sorry. This one has the little small case dispenser on the bottom. I can actually put my cartridge right up against it and dump a charge. This thing is checked against my Dillon scale. I've got this thing dumping 24 grains of surplus 842 powder, and I'm doing some SS 109 bullets, 62 grains. My son comes home from the Marine Corps. He gets more fire time down here, trigger time down here when he comes home. I've got one box up here. It's got 1,000 rounds already loaded. I'm starting on the second one right here. That's probably about 150 right there. But that's what I'm working on here, so my son can get some trigger time when he's home from the Marine Corps. And so I'm fixing to get started on this thing.